You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Bay Area, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm Eric Engel, aka Triple E, former producer for the Murph and Mac show at KMBR, and Steph Curry. Man, the babyface assassin wasn't going to have two bad games in a row, and he showed tonight why he is in the discussion for the greatest of all time. Another huge scoring outburst, just a vintage performance from Curry as he poured in 42 points and 11 three-pointers tonight in a start-to-finish, good old-fashioned butt-kicking. A final score, Warriors 131, Pacers 109. The Warriors went into the Pacers' house and beat them at their own game, getting up and down the court. They were essentially Ethan Hawke at the end of training day, and the Pacers were Denzel Washington, wondering how things could have gone so wrong on their home turf. They took their lunch money and didn't say sorry. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button, and thank you for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. And of course, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a deposit match up to $100. Man, this game from start to finish, the Warriors led the entire time, did not trail for a second, and it was because of Stephen Wardell Curry. I mean, we can't ever talk about this guy enough. Just a human torch when he's on the court. Everything was falling for him. He hit 7 of his first three-point shot attempts, 7 for 7 from beyond the arc to start this game. His first miss didn't come until the second quarter, and by that point in the game, the Warriors were relatively close, just going back and forth, trading blows with the Pacers, but it felt like they had this in hand from start to finish. Early on, Kuminga was finding mismatches in the post and just dunking almost at will, it seems like, at this point. He can just get a bucket whenever he wants. And of course, when you have guys like Steph Curry to spread the floor, makes these wide open lanes for Kuminga to drive, it is a match made in heaven, which is why Kuminga needs to continue his hot streak. He needs to continue hunting those inside buckets. This is how this team will compete. I mean, they're 11th in the standings right now, climbing. You got 2 games against Utah, who's in 10th place, holding down that last spot for the play-in tournament coming up. And we'll see if the Warriors can catch them. I think they will. We saw Utah kind of move off of some key pieces in the trade deadline today, but this is something that you can tune into the Warriors podcast, the Warriors Locked On Warriors podcast daily show for more information on, as they will break it down a little more. But we're going to focus more on tonight's game. Just an absolute team effort too. I mean, obviously Steph did what he does. He just got his, but 4 other Warriors in double figures tonight. Guy Santos, my guy, Guy, with 13 points, a couple huge threes in the fourth quarter to kind of thwart an Indiana run that was mounting, and some really nice hustle boards. You see him getting back on defense. At the half, the Pacers only had 3 points in transition, and that was, a massive, massive, massive win for the Warriors, who are, like I said, just beating the Pacers at their own game, just running them out of the gym. And by the way, Steph Curry is going to return to that gym in just a couple weeks for the All-Star NBA All-Star game, where he's going to be facing Sabrina Ionescu in a 3-point competition. And that'll be really interesting, I think. Sabrina was originally going to shoot from the WNBA 3. Now she's going to shoot from the NBA 3. So that should be fun when Steph does return to Indiana. But tonight was Steph's night, and just absolutely poured it on early. Steph, 18 points in that first quarter. Warriors, 45 points. And Pacers, they were shooting the lights out too. Nearly 60% shooting in the first quarter, but the Warriors were over 70% shooting in that same first quarter. It was absolutely electric. This was one of the most entertaining quarters of basketball I've watched, and it's a stark turnaround from what we've seen from the Warriors the last 2 games in Brooklyn and in Philadelphia. They just started very, very slow. But the one similarity I did see, they were not going to let Tyrese Haliburton beat them. This is the same approach they took last night when they played the Sixers and did not let Tyrese Maxey beat them. Tyrese Maxey was held very much so in check in the first half last night. Tyrese Haliburton, 0 points at halftime tonight. So the Warriors defense, as we talked about last time, I think this is a turning point for them. I really do. I mean, they're playing together as a team. In the non-Steph minutes, you're seeing inspired basketball. You're seeing hustle plays from Quinones, from Guy Santos, from all these guys, and they're getting Chris Paul back. They'll get him back eventually, and that's only going to make this team better. It's going to give you another veteran who knows how to close games, another reliable voice in that locker room to direct these young guys, and that is exactly what a John Kuminga needs at this point, a Brandon Podziemski needs at this point. By the way, another solid all-around game from Podziemski, a little bit of do-it-all for him. He finished with a stat line of 9 points, 7 assists, and 7 boards. So, I mean, not quite triple-double territory, but he's getting there. And, man, when he kind of compared himself to Draymond earlier this season, it was kind of funny. It was something that we could all laugh at because you look at the two guys, they're clearly very dissimilar in their body types, but I get what he's saying. I really do with the hustle plays that he makes, with the kind of, triple single, so to speak, where he just kind of does a little bit of everything. And there's nothing that he's above doing. He's taking charges. He's making the good pass, a little push shot in the lane, little runners. I love that little baby hook that he has, and just drew a foul on that earlier in the game tonight. And he used it again last night as well against the Sixers. And it's always weird to me to see a little point guard do a baby hook in the lane, but it's very effective and he is very good at it. Something he's been working on a lot this season. And I mean, the one word that keeps coming back to me for these non-Steph minutes is scrappy. I mean, this team absolutely is just in a dogfight when Steph's not out there. And people are getting back on defense. As we said, only 3 transition points for the Pacers at the half. That comes directly as a result of guys getting back on defense. And Draymond really set the tone for that. He was a huge part of doing that today. And that intensity rubs off on these young guys. You see these legends like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green doing these little things. Steph with his back picks, as we've been talking about, Draymond getting back on defense, Klay getting boards and making passes more than he's ever done in his career, and taking open shots, not forcing things. These are the types of things that these young players will glob onto and learn from. And this is great. And Wiggins played, within himself tonight. He didn't need to be a scoring option for them, and he wasn't. He played completely within himself. Everybody on the Warriors just did their job, and we saw what this team could do on those nights. They can compete with absolutely anybody. And when Draymond is in, completely changes the defensive tone of this team. They have not been a good defensive team pretty much the whole season, statistics wise. When Draymond's in there, they're a different team. There was one key moment I wanted to kind of point to that I think was a big turning point in this game. Things could have gone much differently when Tyrese Haliburton hit a 3 and a foul was called on Steph Curry. And it looked really similar to the play that Steph had last night against the Sixers when he hit a 3. A foul was called on the floor, but it was reviewed and overturned. And the ruling was that Steph kicked out his leg. Haliburton did pretty much the same thing. And Steph convinced Kerr to challenge. And it was the right move because it was overturned. And at that moment, that would have been Steph's 3rd foul. That would have completely changed the context of this game. Because mind you, this was with just under 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Steph would have been pulled, completely different momentum there going into halftime. And that would have given the Pacers some life. That was a big swing in this game. And the Warriors just kept that momentum from that point on and rode it for the rest of the game to the end. They hung 70 points on the Pacers in the first half. Just an absolute dominant showing by the Dubs. It's everything you want to see. It's everything you want to see. A start to finish, just shellacking, manhandling of the Pacers. And this is a good team. This is a measuring stick game. And it was great to see the Warriors live up to the competition. Now, later on in the show, we'll talk a little bit more about these, Steph Curry's greatness. I mean, we got it. We got to keep talking about it. The non-Steph minutes as well. We'll get into that a little bit more in just how these baby dubs have kind of evolved and will keep evolving for this team down the stretch, hopefully creating a push to the playoffs. Also, shout out Klay Thompson. He didn't play tonight. Happy 34th birthday, Klay. We all love you. A Bay Area icon, a staple, a legend. Everybody loves Klay. How do you not like Klay? I digress. We'll be right back. We'll get into some things on the other side. Steph Curry's greatness and the non-Steph minutes coming back a little bit later. This is the Locked On Warriors postcast on Locked On Sports Bay Area. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup at SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Sounds like the car for you if you live in the Bay Area, like me, and make some trips up to Tahoe, like me, if you couldn't tell by my ski goggle tan that was pretty evident last time. It has Class Executive Google built in and is always updating Assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen Infominate system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Armada, and it will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. Tow bigger and explore further in the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am your host, Eric Engel. And we got to get into Steph Curry's great game. I mean, another 40-point game from Steph, just an absolute masterclass from the baby-faced assassin. What else do we expect from him? I mean, obviously, Steph's not going to have 2 bad games in a row. This is why he is great. He's just not going to do that. That's the hallmark of a great player in the NBA is being able to stop those streaks, being able to just go out there and have the high scoring night that you know he can deliver night in, night out. You expect it and he delivers, and you're shocked when he doesn't. And that is why Steph is greatness personified. I don't even know how else to explain it at this point. I'm running out of words because we've all, for the last 15 years, seen what Steph can do. Wow, it's really been 15 years, man. This guy is unreal. And you keep waiting for the fall off to come, and it just doesn't happen. It's almost like he gets better as he gets older. We saw him beef up a couple years ago. That frame is much thicker now than it ever used to be in his early career. And the shooting is still there. The touch is just as good as it's ever been. We saw tonight, that right before the end of the half, he drives the lane, circus shot with his back to the rim, somehow goes in. I mean, what can't this guy do? Tonight, he had 11 threes tonight. So puts him over the mark of 8 3-pointers in a game. And they showed a graphic tonight in the game that I thought that was hilarious. And Steph has 79 games with at least 8 3-pointers made. 79 games with at least 8 3-pointers made. By far the most in NBA history. The next closest, Damian Lillard with 29. Steph has 50 more games with at least 8 3-pointers made than anybody else in NBA history. This guy is just on another planet with his shooting touch. He is, I mean, if it wasn't already obvious before, he's the greatest shooter of all time, bar none. And I think in the discussion for the greatest of all time, I mean, a lot of people would say it's sacrilege to put him up there with Michael Jordan, Kobe, those types of guys, but I don't think he's too far behind. I mean, you could make the case he's completely changed how this game is played. 1,000%. Look at the team they just played. The way that the Pacers built that team and the way that they tried to just drain in threes is completely centered around Tyrese Haliburton, their point guard. This is a carbon copy of what the Warriors did. It's amazing to me. Steph and every team out there is trying to do this now. Every team out there is trying to find their version of Steph Curry. And we see how many more threes everybody takes now. And I mean, none of this is new. We've all known this for a while, but it's staggering how this just continues to happen and how much better Steph is at doing these things than anybody else, despite the fact that the rest of the league has already adjusted to him. It's incredible. I'm running out of words for how amazing this type of performance from Steph is. Again, it's almost like you kind of expect this from a guy like Steph, and just an absolutely unreal performance from him. When they kind of needed that tonight. They needed a lift. They needed in the fifth game of a 5-game road trip. You're on the East Coast. It's back end of a back-to-back. These are the games you're supposed to lose in the NBA. And these are the games that you need your star players to step up and deliver for you. And that's exactly what Steph Curry did. Like I said, Ethan Hawke at the end of training day, just mowing everybody down, taking what is his, and just delivering a butt kicking, I don't know how else to put it, to the Pacers in their own house. This was a absolutely vintage night for Steph. Amazing, amazing performances all around too from the rest of the Warriors. Everyone stepped up. Everyone did their job, and then allowed Steph to just run wild and just like a 35-year-old little kid running around out there on the court, just making insane shots, and just an absolute barn burner from start to finish, which is more or less what we expected. Pacers first in offense, 28th in defense coming into this game. We knew the Warriors were going to have to run, and we talked about it on the last postcast we did last night. It was essential to get the veterans rest last night ahead of this back-to-back, ahead of this last game of this 5-game road trip. It was essential for them to get that win last night and to get these players rested for tonight. This has just been one of the best road trips the Warriors have had in a very, very long time. Tonight's win brings them to 11 wins on the season on the road. Their record is now 11-12 on the road. And what's significant about that is last season, the Warriors only had 11 wins on the road all season long. They were putrid, just absolutely awful garbage on the road last year. And this year, they have shown that they can do that. And keep in mind, a lot of those games were, Draymond's missed half the season. And when Draymond plays, this team is different defensively. And tonight you saw why. Again, only 3 points given up in transition at the half. A lot of that is from Draymond getting back on defense, commanding those young guys to get back on defense too. Top to bottom, just one of the best Warriors wins of the year in a measuring stick game against a really, really, really good team from the Eastern Conference that I don't know is quite ready to make a push for a championship. I'm not going to say that about the Pacers quite yet, but they'll win a playoff series. I think this Pacers team is really, really, really good, and they're dangerous. And you saw tonight how multiple they are with Siakam and Miles Turner both being able to shoot and also get buckets and boards inside. I mean, anytime you got a guy that's that big and can have the shooting touch that Miles Turner does, it creates a mismatch. And you saw that a little bit tonight. Thankfully, the Warriors just completely outplayed the Pacers on almost every other level so that wasn't a big point. We got some more stuff to get into. We need to talk about these baby dubs in these non-Steph minutes, how this is a turning point. As we said last night, this is a turning point in the season for the Warriors. And we're going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline. Not a whole lot to break down there, but we'll mention a few things. And one brief mention of an NBA legend who got his flowers today. We'll get into all that a little bit later. Thanks for tuning in to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am Eric Engel, and we'll be right back. Today's episode of Locked On Warriors postcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting ways to play at PrizePicks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Tonight on PrizePicks, I'm going with Austin Reeves, more than 15 points, Colin Sexton, more than 19.5 points, and Cade Cunningham, less than 25.5 points. Fade those Pistons, people. By the way, did you see the troll job the Kings had on the Pistons last night with the Brandon Ayuk catch on repeat when they introed their lineups? That was pretty sweet. Anyways, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am your host, Eric Engel. You might know me as Triple E from the Murph and Max show on KMBR. And we need to talk about those baby doves, the Brandon Pajemskis, the Lester Quinoneses, the Guy Santoses, the Trayce Jackson Davises. Man, at the end of the game right there in that garbage time, Trayce Jackson Davis comes in off the bench and just got a massive standing out from the crowd in Indiana. What a classy move. I mean, the guy's spent his whole life in Indiana prior to coming to the Warriors. He went to high school just outside of Indianapolis and was an All-American in Indiana. And he was getting this nice ovation. It was kind of lingering. And he immediately throws down an alley-oop and the place goes wild. Oh, man, just a great scene tonight for Warriors fans, which, by the way, have been traveling exceptionally well on this road trip. I mean, we're kind of used to seeing the Niners fan base has traveled really well this year, and the Warriors fan base is now showing out on this East Coast road trip as well. We heard Steph getting some MVP chants the other night in Brooklyn, and we're hearing just absolutely, monster cheers for Steph when these threes splash in on the road. And we're hearing groans when they don't fall. And I mean, how do you not love Steph Curry? This is just who he is. He spreads joy to the rest of the world. If there was I've said this to many people, my girlfriend hates this take, but if there was an alien invasion, aliens came down from space, and we need one person from every region of the world to represent that region, Steph Curry is my pick for the Bay Area, hands down. There is nobody else who can even submit an application. It's Steph Curry. He is, not only is he a phenomenal player, but a phenomenal human, just the best all-around. We talked about it before, the best all-around athlete in my lifetime in the Bay Area, even better than Barry Bonds. I'd pick Steph to represent us, to introduce the human race to aliens. I mean, I'm just saying, that man can do anything. I would trust him with my life. Steph is the best player I have ever seen in any sport. But when he's not on the court, this has been a problem for the Warriors for many years. This is we always hear about the non-Steph minutes. Well, tonight in the non-Steph minutes, the Warriors at the end of the game pushed the lead even further. Steph sat. The Warriors had a 20-point lead when he came back, and it was nice. I mean, Guy Santos with 2 really, really, really big threes there in the fourth to kind of pump the brakes on that Pacers run that was mounting. And we're seeing all these guys. We talked about Pajemski a little bit earlier. He does everything well, and all of these guys are doing little things. When they have their moment, they're not doing too much. They're not trying to be the star. They're not trying to be all eyes on me. They're trying to just put the ball in the bucket, make the nice pass. If there's an open guy, swing the rock. If there's a lane to drive it. If someone steps in front of you, kick it out. We saw so many driving kicks tonight from Pajemski. There were even a few where he just looked like he was specifically not even looking to score. Like he was just driving with his eyes up, looking around for who he was going to pass to. And that's the kind of play that you love to see from a guy who commands your second unit. right now, at least with Chris Paul out, and amazing instincts from a rookie to be able to see that. We saw Lester Quinones get a couple really tough rebounds inside. Guy Santos got a couple tough rebounds inside, and Quinones made a really nice, tough layup where he fought off a couple defenders in the lane. And I didn't really know how that shot went in, but he used the glass to kind of get it high off the glass, and this high arcing scoop shot went in. It was impressive. But these guys are all giving the Warriors a huge lift right now at the most important time of the season, when a lot of teams are tired. We're heading into the All-Star break. A lot of teams need this rest right now, and the Warriors are no exception. They're pretty banged up. They could definitely use Chris Paul back, but this team doesn't look tired to me. And how important was that rest that they got last night? We already said that, but just can't emphasize that enough. And that, in conjunction with the young legs on this bench, really pushed the Warriors in a position where they can have nights like tonight on the end of a back-to-back. They just need to lean on those young guys a little more. And I think they did that just phenomenally tonight. Steve Kerr pushing all the right buttons. He has been on this road trip for the entire time. We saw tonight, every time that the Pacers started to mount a comeback, Kerr would call a timeout and immediately put the brakes on it. You saw him kind of mouthing when the camera cut to him after calling a timeout in one of these situations, just mouthing the word poise to the Warriors as they walk back to the huddle. And just the constant reminder to these young guys to keep your head in the game. Don't get distracted. Don't look at the score. You're up. Just keep the gas pedal on. I mean, how many times this season have we seen them let teams back into games after they go up, 15, 20 points, and they let teams right back in? And on this road trip, they didn't do that. They have been really steadfast in keeping their foot on the throat of their opponent, in landing those death blows when they need to. And it's been great to watch this team kind of put all these things together. And tonight, phenomenal end to this 5-game road trip. They go 4-1 on this road trip, and they head back to Chase Center to face who else? Kevin Durant and the Suns. They'll be in town on Saturday, and we will have a show for you afterwards. And then, of course, we'll have a show on Sunday, the Super Bowl, the 49ers and the Chiefs, the biggest game of the 49ers season of the last. I mean, I think this is an even bigger Super Bowl than the last one they lost to Kansas City. If they don't get this one, I just might cry in my room for a whole week. I don't know, man. This is huge. We will come live. Hopefully I won't just be sobbing the entire show. I'm going to say Niners by 3. You've already got my prediction. We'll get into all of that on Sunday postgame. If you can't tell, I'm juiced, man. I am so excited for this damn game. One last thing, 2 quick notes, actually, before we get out of here. First, Corey Joseph traded at the trade deadline for a couple draft picks and some cash considerations. This is exactly what we talked about last night. Warriors weren't going to make a big splash move at the deadline. They might move some bench pieces to help them with some future salary cap spaces. They didn't add any depth like we thought they might go and try and find a big to bring off the bench. But it appears that they don't need it. Their rotations are nice. You didn't even see Kevon Looney, the only true center on this team besides Trayce Jackson-Davis. You didn't see Kevon come into the game until midway through the second quarter. They did not even feel the need to roll a center out there against the Pacers with their, big front court with Siakam and Miles Turner. And that worked out for the Warriors pretty well. So again, nothing too big. Well, the rest of the NBA went pretty crazy with trades at the deadline. The Warriors pretty much stand pat, move on from a bench guard who was probably going to have to get cut once Chris Paul came back anyways. So that's all we got on the trade deadline. And one last thing before we get out. Some of you aren't going to like this, but I feel like we got to talk about it. Kobe Bryant, who just absolutely tortured the Warriors for years and years and years when they were so bad, just absolutely terrible. But you got to respect the greats. And Kobe tonight had his first of 3 statues unveiled in front of Staples Center, and it It's great, man. It's great to see the greats of this game get the respect and love that they deserve. And just shout out to everyone who had anything to do with that. Very classy move by the Lakers. And one day, Steph Curry will have a statue of his own. So will Klay Thompson. So will Draymond Green in front of Chase Center. And I can't wait to see which pose that they pick for Steph. They talked about a lot. There was a lot of talk about what Kobe's pose was going to be. I'm curious what the Steph Curry statue is going to look like. He can start building it now. I mean, I think that they should maybe even build that before he retires. Give him that in his last year as a send-off to Steph Curry. That would be, I think, the right thing to do for the Warriors. That's about all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Thanks for listening on the stream, on YouTube, however you're getting our show. Appreciate you. And we'll be back after the Suns game on Saturday, and then we'll be back on Sunday as well after the 49ers Super Bowl. Just a massive, massive sports weekend for all of us in the Bay Area. Again, I am Eric Engel, a.k.a. Triple E. Thank you again for the 15th time. Appreciate you all, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.